Brideshead Revisited may showcase a type of status unfamiliar to you, but that doesn't mean there's no relatability to be had.
Canada be damned. I'm going to the Klondike.
The Klondike is Canada.
Giorgio, you be doing just fine, brother.
As I get older, I appreciate more and more the things which touch me on a warm and fuzzy level. But if I were to go one step further, what I appreciate most are the warm and fuzzy feelings brought on by unlikely sources which befuddle me, not just because they're outside my norm, but because I find my deep, helpless love for them terribly difficult to pinpoint or articulate as to why. The 2008 film adaptation of Evelyn Waugh's classic novel Brideshead Revisited is definitely a perfect example of such a thing, and although I find my admiration difficult to convey, I still want to take the time and try. Brideshead Revisited begins in World War II England and gives us a cryptic introduction to our main character, Charles Ryder, played by Matthew Good. Charles is a lost man weathered by his personal life leading up to the war, which is really where the story takes place. As a young middle-class history major at Oxford, Ryder quickly makes friends and acquaintances in a circle outside of his norm.
I don't remember you from Eton.
I didn't go to Eton.
Really? Where then? Harrow or Winchester? Rugby? Well, not Charterhouse, I hope.
You wouldn't have heard of it.
Oh.
There are other schools, you know, boy.
Yes. I suppose there must be.
And the differences between Charles and his newfound friends aren't limited strictly to economics.
Sodomites. All of them.
Of these young men, Charles befriends Sebastian Flight, played by Ben Whishaw, a somewhat capricious man of means who has a passion for leisure, champagne, and fine wine. Sebastian introduces Charles to his sister Julia, played by Hayley Atwell, who emphasizes Charles's differences even more.
I take it you're not one of us.
Don't answer.
I don't live like this, if that's what you mean.
She means you're not a Catholic.
Sorry, no.
Charles then goes on to meet other members of the Flight family, including the icy matriarch Lady Marchmain, played by Emma Thompson. And after charming the Flights with his natural innocence, Charles is invited to spend the summer with them, where a love triangle develops, blurring the lines of friendship and romance, all on the palatial family estate known as Brideshead.
Is this where you live?
For those familiar with both Brideshead Revisited and this channel, this pairing probably seems atypical, and you'd be right to think that. Not only is Brideshead Revisited outside my usual wheelhouse, but personally speaking, there's very little in the way of its themes or subject matters which I have first-hand experience with or can relate to. For starters, Catholicism is a dominant subject of Brideshead. It's the religion of the Flights, and it's especially devout with Lady Marchmain, whereas I lead a secular life, which I find hard to summarize with a simple, all-encapsulating title.
We must all accept God's limits. Atheist or no.
For half of the children of the Flight family, much of their personal struggle lies in trying to lead the life they want to lead, while doing their best to make it fit the strict limitations of the religion. Charles is the audience's vessel for which the film can explore the rules of Catholicism for those unfamiliar, and although the film doesn't spend a tremendous amount of time with the details of Catholicism, it does spend some of its time with the degrees to which its characters follow it and the fluidity to which those characters bend the rules.
It's not Lady Marchmain's fault. Her God has done it to her.
But surely you're Catholic too.
Yes, but a different sort. But it's different in Italy. Not so much guilt. We do what the heart tells us, and then we go to confession.
Therefore, the criticism around Catholicism in Brideshead Revisited is not about the religion itself, but how its characters wield it. And just to be clear, although I'm not a Catholic, I'm not trying to pass myself off as holier than thou, but rather, I simply want to convey how Brideshead Revisited presents Catholicism without judgment.
What did you do that for? You're not Catholic, are you? No. I was just trying to fit in.
Well, don't.
As I bluntly stated earlier, homosexuality also plays a significant role in Brideshead Revisited. Unlike Catholicism, homosexuality in Brideshead isn't as widely spoken about. In fact, it's not even called out by any of its names. Instead, it's explored through characters' actions, subtle or otherwise. With the earlier part of the film developing a friendship between a gay and a straight character, the focus is in no way about gay relationships, but rather a non-romantic companionship between two men of different sexuality. As Charles and Sebastian's relationship evolves, a flirtation with the prospect of a same-sex romance is touched upon. But it's abandoned by the second act by complicating matters with a gay-straight love triangle.
What a lot of temptations.
The interesting thing about this is that it's not the usual romantic drama we're used to seeing, and therefore it's not entirely clear how things are going to pan out.
They're very good, these romantic English friendships. If they don't go on too long.
The last thing I love about Brideshead Revisited, yet have no experience with firsthand, is the upper-class lifestyle of the Flights and other such wealthy characters. It's not so much the ornate designs of architecture or fashionable tastes in costume, but the discovery and contrast of Charles' modest socio-economic status to that of the Flights. Like Charles, I don't come from a family of means, which is what makes Ryder's introduction to this world so relatable. As a young character during the first act, Charles is absolutely enchanted by Brideshead.
I think Brideshead's the most beautiful house I've ever seen. It's utterly magical.
How kind you are.
And by the final act, after having been put through the ringer by the events of the plot, you can feel the journey Charles has made by the difference in how Matthew Goode delivers that reflection.
Can you imagine what it was like for me to be invited into Brideshead? Me, Charles Ryder, a painter from Paddington, as your mother so sweetly put it. There was no humiliation I would not have endured just to be part of that dream.
Over the course of Charles' story, he's gradually and unintentionally groomed into the upper echelons of society. His once bright-eyed and bushy-tailed demeanor dissolves under pressure while becoming an adult. And similar to how Matthew Goode delivers lines, Goode's mere expressions give you a scope of Charles' arc between his soft first-act eyes and his third-act daggers. But one such interaction with Charles Ryder illustrates best where he's been versus where he's going.
How apropos that you should have chosen jungles for your canvas. I always thought you the lamb to be slaughtered, when all along it is they who are hunted. There really is no end to your hunger. Is there, Charles?
Perhaps the most fascinating thing about Ryder's arc is how often others determined his direction. For the most part, Charles was led down the primrose path. He didn't seek it. In almost every circumstance, other characters sought him out and brought him into the fold. The brilliant misdirection of Brideshead Revisited is how the film sweeps us up with such charm, we never once ask,
what does Charles Ryder really want?
It's a good question that makes perfect sense in hindsight, as the ending dovetails into the beginning. I suppose I've gone on long enough. This video essay has gone on unusually long for a film that's not my usual. Like some of my other video essays, I've neglected to mention key points you might expect to be addressed, like the depths of Emma Thompson's cold characterization, the original Brideshead miniseries, or the secondary villain Rex who's Canadian? What the f*** is going on? Are they even allowed to do that? I mean, we're supposed to be the nice ones. Well, be that as it may, I think it's safe to say Brideshead Revisited has so much going for it, much outside the norm. It's spinning a lot of plates with seamless transitions. It miraculously never drops the ball. And despite the differences between myself and some of its affluent characters, Brideshead Revisited still managed to get me in the feels. Maybe it could do the same for you too, regardless of who you are.